Next up is Aaron Strout, who is the CMO of Powered, and Powered was, you may or may not have heard, was acquired by the Dotjes Group a few weeks ago, so that was some big news in this industry. He's no dummy himself, but he will be authoring a book for dummies, for dummies, location-based marketing for dummies. And that's not, I kid, that's not just for dummies. It will be a kind of comprehensive look at how location-based services is emerging. So I'm sure he'll touch on that in his talk. And Aaron spends a lot of time working with brands, and so he'll give you the brand marketing perspective as well. Aaron?
And so I'm actually not going to talk about location-based. I left myself the opening. I had two topics, and one was location-based, and the other was the one that I think I'm going to talk about. And so Dara talked a little bit about location-based. Tim touched on it. Certainly happy to talk with anybody about it after the fact if they'd like. But what I am going to do is I'm going to start with last year's prediction, which was 2010 will be the year of the branded online community. Just outright, I'm going to give myself probably a C- for that one, because I think branded online communities are not taking hold the way that I had sort of thought they would. That does not mean that I'm not still bullish on them. I don't think that companies basically discovered this thing called Facebook, right? And it was a shiny object, 550 million people. That's tough to ignore. What I will tell you though, and I left myself just a little bit of room at the end of my prediction. I went in and reread it yesterday when Brian was kind enough to send those around. And then I did say, what I think you will start to see is a more socialized website. And so in my mind, that's doing a little bit more of a replacing of the traditional, the Live World community or the Jive, or I came from, two different companies that provided online communities. So I think given that, I'm going to maybe give myself a B-, C+ as a grade, that I do think more and more websites are becoming more social. A lot of that has to do with things like Facebook with OpenAuth, allowing people to plug in and connect to their social graph that way. And I think more and more companies are going to start to probably do smaller, more private versions of community, and that may have offline and online components. So let me get to my prediction for this year. And so I of course do think that location-based services are going to be huge. 33 million people, according to a report yesterday that came out from eMarketer, based on data from SNL Kagan. That's a little less than 10% of the population have reported that they've used or tried location-based services. I think part of that is due to what Tim had mentioned with this thing called Facebook Places. It makes it front and center in terms of one of the three things that you can do when you update your status. But my talk today, and I'll leave the last 2 minutes for this, is curation. Content curation, I think, in 2011 is a huge opportunity for businesses. Okay, and I'll give an example. eMarketer, they're a little bit odd because they're not the traditional brand. They're more like a news sort of analyst site than they are a brand. But the thing that I love about eMarketer, and if you don't follow them on Twitter, then make sure you're doing that as of right now, because they put out great data, great content. But not just because they tweet their own reports. They tweet other people's reports. They tweet individuals, they tweet companies. And so what am I talking about curation? Curation, think of it simply as filtering, right? It's the ability to take in a lot of good inputs and distill that down to something meaningful, and then put a more consolidated, distilled stream out to the people that are your audience, right? So where am I going with this? Big companies. Companies, let's throw out Sony. Sony used to be a client of Powered, and one of the things that I always liked about what they did was, instead of just talking about how great their products were, they would talk about the lifestyle that would wrap around those products. And so if you're a camera enthusiast, yes, I can go to their website, I can read all the latest specs on their products. That's easy to find. This thing called Google has made that easy. But what if I'm a photographer, maybe I don't own a Sony, maybe I'm thinking about it, maybe I own a Canon or a Nikon or whatever. Learning about how to take better low-light photos, learning how to become a better photographer in general adds value to my life. And so in this world where products are becoming increasingly more commoditized, and we see that yesterday with Verizon announcing the iPhone, right? This big advantage that AT&T had is no longer going to be such a big advantage. So in this world where products are becoming more and more commoditized, the ways brands can start to win is through adding value to their customers' lives. One obvious way is certainly customer service, and a lot of companies are starting to at least think about it, even if they're not necessarily doing it well. but the other is through curation. And that means going out and finding the best of what analysts are saying about the particular area, the need that they fill. It means going out and finding the best on the web, the best bloggers. Those might be individuals, they might be other companies, they might even be competitors, right? And I think that companies that have a full confidence in their ability to execute and a full confidence in their customer service and their products will not be afraid to let people know, yes, we know there are other products out there like ours. But guess what? Your best experience is going to be with us because we always have your best interest. And I'll give you one small example and then we'll move on to the next speaker. Target, okay? Go to Target all the time. Some people love it, some people hate it. You can get almost anything at Target, right? What I love is I've been there a few times now, and their electronics department is good, not great, but it's a good place to go. My son loves to go and look at games for the Wii or the DS. Well, there have been a few times where we've gone in and I've had a specific need, and I knew exactly what I needed, and I went in and said, hey, do you guys have this? One of the times they didn't carry it. The other time they said, we do carry it, but we're out of them right now. But you know where you can go? Best Buy. Now, to me, that solidifies my relationship with Target. Not Best Buy, but Target, because even though I'm not buying it there, even though I'm not spending money there, they're sending me to a place where I know I can get it. And so even though they get no money from that, and they don't have any official relationship with them, they've made me a more loyal customer because they looked out for my self-interest first. So if you look at curation in the bigger picture, and companies saying, we're going to give you all of the best information, even if sometimes it works against us, because that's what customers want, and that's what they need, and that's what's going to grow relationships. 2011, it's not going to, every company's not going to be doing it, but I think you're going to start to see more and more smart companies start to think that way and let go of this traditional notion of like, we've got to hide everybody else and just put ourselves on the pedestal. So that's my prediction. Thanks, Brian.